welcome to another episode of The Platform, and an absolute thrill to have Hal McElroy on the show. In the worlds of film and TV, it just doesn't get any bigger. He's an absolute superstar, and check out some of his work.
Let's go back to the very beginning. What was the first film?
Cars at 8 Paris with Peter Weir. We were kids, I was 25, 26 or something. And we took it to the Cannes Film Festival and created quite a stir there.
The light is at the end of the tunnel.
Well, after that, we did Picnic Hang Rock.
Look.
It's still considered a classic.
It's Valentine. It's Valentine! Where in the world are they going? Without their shoes!
Then you did The Last Wave.
Yeah, with Richard Chamberlain.
What are dreams? The way of knowing things.
Why didn't you tell me there were mysteries?
David, my whole life has been about a mystery.
No!
Greg, how does it feel to be marrying Australia's wealthiest woman?
Fantastic.
Greg, Joe was saying that
I need an agent. Someone who can get me on the cover of Vogue in 6 months.
If Jake couldn't stop it, what chance do we have?
To us. To all of us.
How can you defend him?
He's my father.
He's alive!
Hi!
Get him to the hospital!
We've come far, but we are still a long way from home.
I can see how a woman would be jealous.
Have your bum.
It's just a joke. Look, the thing is, I'd really like to see you again.
No man has been more successful producing popular TV cop shows than Hal McElroy. This is the most successful Aussie TV drama of all time.
I'm PJ.
Constable Maggie Doyle.
And the winner is Lou Healer.
Wow, this is a great moment. One of the great things that I love about television is we go into people's homes, and if you go into someone's homes, you go into their heart.
In the high-risk business of TV drama, Hal McElroy is the man with the Midas touch. Everything he touches seems to turn to gold.
So you didn't freeze?
No, I didn't.
Only one can win the award, and this year it goes to Water Rats, the 9
My God, how amazing. I mean, I think you could count the people watching Water Rats in the hundreds of millions.
You killed Charlie, didn't you?
He's interrogating a suspect, you were protecting one.
That's bull.
Does your partner say they are too tired for sex?
I think this is the part where we kiss.
Here's a man who not only knows how police work, he also obviously knows what makes you tick.
You're on the roller coaster, you got to keep on going. I couldn't do anything else, and I love doing what I do, and I think that's one of the reasons I've been successful, because I love it so much.
Yeah, what an incredible body of work to look back on. He's an absolute superstar, and it was great to get him on Skype, and we filmed this for the show. Yeah. So, look, Hal, it's so good to see you, mate. I'd love to just catch up anyway, but to get you on the show is a thrill, and I think you know by now the show I do is all about stories.
Yes.
Your story, I've always been fascinated by, a legend in TV, but how did it all begin for you?
Well, look, way back, really, I have to acknowledge, when I was young, like 9, 10 or something, I was a Boy Scout. And there's a thing that the Boy Scouts used to organise in those days called Gang Show, which is a vaudeville show they used to put on once a year in Melbourne. And it turned out to be a big show. But anyway, when I first started, as I said, 10, 11, my twin brother Jim was in it with me. And we sang and danced in front of an audience, singing, vaudeville songs, Riding On the Crest of the Wave, that sort of stuff. Uplifting Boy Scout songs. Then it was so popular because there was like 30, 40 kids in the cars. They moved to the Palais in Melbourne, which is a big house. It seats 3,000. And we'd sell out the house for 7 performances in a row.
Wow.
So aged, by this time I was like 12, 13, I was performing in front of 3,000 screaming adults, all of them parents, effectively, the kids on stage, because by this time the cast was like about 80 kids, all male, by the way, because the Boy Scouts and Girl Guides had not got together in the show. It was just an all-boy with Boy Scout masters performing some of the slapstick comedy. So I literally smelt the grease paint and put on funny costumes and stuff and heard the applause when I was very young. My father, fortunately, was a public servant in the Department of Trade, and he used to write a satirical column on radio called McElroy's Melbourne that he used to read live on Sunday night.
Wow.
And my brother and I would go in and see him reading out this satirical column, just making fun of living in Melbourne. And so, as I said, we're exposed to show business. So when I left school at 16 and I didn't know what to do, and I failed at the first job I got, I was fired after 10 days, which was intended to place me in some sort of position to run my uncle's stationery company. As I said, I lost the job. So I decided to get a job in window dressing at Buckley and Nunn in Melbourne. And I did okay in that. It was kind of creative, as you would imagine.
Yeah.
And then I got a job in advertising, working as in what's called a production department, basically delivery boy.
Yeah.
And through that, I met Fred Skepsey, who became famous as Fred Skepsey. And he offered me a job when I was working now for the second advertising agency, and I was by then working in the TV and radio department, writing ads and stuff. 18 years old. It was crazy.
Wow.
That were live on television. I was producing live commercials on In Melbourne Tonight with Graham Kennedy, Bert Newton, Miss Panda, and all of these people. They're retail ads.
Yeah.
So Fred offered me a job when I was 18, and so I joined the film industry when I was 18, and I've never done anything else since. So I don't have any formal training. I just did it. And I found, luckily, when I was 18, that it was a job that I loved doing. The film industry was a job. And so I stuck with it. And, around about, 30 years ago, I went into television rather than feature films. So I've kind of stuck with it. And for a while there, until I've semi-retired now, I think, also my brother and I are the longest serving producers in Australia with, damn near 50 years.
The original Team McElroy was in fact the brothers McElroy, Hal and his twin brother Jim, who skipped school in Melbourne to spend their days at Hanging Rock.
Not down at the ground, Edith. Way up there in the sky.
Their credits since then read like a showreel of Australian films and hit television drama. Picnic, The Last Wave, Razorback, and Return to Eden, ending up with Hal producing the highly acclaimed feature film, The Sum of Us.
Well, up your bum.
It's just a joke. Dad's always making jokes.
So it was, we had a great time, and, I made lots of friends and had some hits and some failures and survived. I think the thing I'm proudest of is I'm still vertical, because in these days, in this business, it's ruinously stressful and kills people and marriages and, destroys health, etc.
Yeah.
And I survived, so I'm lucky.
Well, I just played your the highlights package that you have on your website there, looking back on your career. What's that like when you look at that clip, putting all those projects together?
It's kind of weird and discombobulating, but and also it makes me proud. And I'm very pleased with what I've done and proud of it. And every production I made, and I've made 24 in my years. Every one I was proud of. It took me always some years after I'd finished the production to actually, for the scars to fall off my eyesight, and for me to realise what I'd actually made, and to let in the criticisms inevitably levelled. And so it was hard at that point. You kind of, oh my God, my baby isn't quite as beautiful as I thought it was. Because every single baby I produced was the most beautiful baby ever made, and it was going to be a gigantic hit. I was wrong about 49% of the time. I was right about 51% of the time, just over halfway. So that enabled me to survive. I could come up with something, another success after a while. But it was never an unbroken run. About half of my stuff failed. And it's painful to think of the failure and to think of the reasons for the failure. But, of course, you learn from your failure. You don't learn from success. Success just tends to flatter your vanity and you believe, oh, see, I was always right. Success is very painful because it's very public. I did a speech some years ago, and at the end of the speech was a question and answer, which is a speech to teachers, I believe. And a guy got up and said, Carzade Paris, what were you thinking, Hal? That was a joke. And so 30 years, 40 years later, I'm apologising for a film. It was the first film I'd made, and we tried hard.
But wasn't that a success, that film? Wasn't that a success?
No, it wasn't, actually. It lost money. But it was a success in that it launched Peter Weir. It launched our career as producers. We had fun doing it. We made it for $180,000 or something. It was pretty cheap. It was the first Australian feature film to go to, excuse me, the Cannes Film Festival.
Oh, wow.
And so we opened up the world to Australian films and to Peter Weir. And we nearly got a distribution deal in America with Roger Corman. But as Peter Weir furiously recounts endlessly to Roger Corman's annoyance, Roger, who I sat beside on the screen, said, I love this movie, I want to distribute it. Then dicked around for 12 months, eventually said, no, I'm not going to release the picture, and then released a film called Death Race 2000, which featured, amongst other things, spiky cars. Peter Weir has always insisted that Roger stole the idea. Roger has also furiously insisted he didn't. Given that Roger's legend for stealing things, I would imagine Peter's right and we were right.
Yeah.
But so we had that kind of early dance with Hollywood and that early experience of rejection by Hollywood. But then, of course, Picnic Hang Rock was a huge smash, and that changed our lives and our career and was a wonderful thing for us all. But, of course, this being show business, a year or so after that, my brother and I invested in a laser light show called Laserdome and lost every single dollar we had, including the hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s we'd made for Picnic Hang Rock. Lost the whole lot in a matter of 5 days. And we'd borrowed money to put in the show, believe it, and lost that as well.
Oh, man.
So the 2 years in, just after I was married, just before we had our first baby, who's now nearly 41, I was close to broke. And so I had to sort of battle back from that, and I did. But then, Dan there will gamble the whole lot 30 years later on a court case, and then he lost that too, but won a settlement. And so it's been ups and downs, but that's part of it. And it's very hard for people outside of the business to understand just how difficult and horrible a place it can be. And they think it's all glamour and fun and fabulous. It ain't. It's nothing but hard work, relentless stress and pressure, intense, ruthless competition. Your best friends, producers, etc., will stab you in the back and stand on your shoulders and pretend you never existed, because that's the nature of the business. So living with that is hard. And the only way you can do it is to have good partners. And in my life, I've had a remarkable partner, my wife. We've been married for 43 years, I think it is. And she's a remarkable woman, a remarkable tower of strength, remarkably smart. And she's kept me on the straight and narrow and able to deal with these ups and downs. And
well, you're speaking about Di, so how did you guys meet?
well, I was working on a film about a film called Don Quixote, directed by Rudolf Nureyev and Sir Robert Helpman. And it was a film of the ballet. The director of photography was Jeffrey Unsworth, who directed photography for Space Odyssey 2001. So a legendary English photographer. Wow. It was directed by Rudolf Nureyev and Bobby, and produced by the Australian Ballet and an English company. And my wife, Di, to become wife, Di, was secretary to the administrator and effectively in charge of all the logistics for the ballet company. So her job was to deliver the ballet company, all of them, principals, the works, including Rudolph, to the set, and my job was to get it shot. So, of course, we clashed. And she would organise meetings and I would cancel them because I had to organise and that sort of stuff, And at the wrap party, she came up to me and she said, Hal McElroy, you're the rudest prick I've ever had anything to do with. And And I said, well, look, why don't we go have dinner and talk about it? And we're with each other pretty much from that point on. So she's a very strong woman, very capable woman, but very smart. And somehow she ignored whatever misgivings may have been there and stuck with me. And we've got 3 wonderful children as a result.
With his wife and longtime partner Di, they form Team McElroy. So if she says, no, it doesn't work, even watching an episode on Monday or Tuesday night, if she watches an episode, does that hit you in the
yes,
heart?
that stops in my tracks. You know, in fact, she kind of has veto over everything, particularly casting. She's sensational with casting. I wouldn't consider using an actor in a key role unless Di felt they were right, because as a woman, she's very intuitive, as every woman in your audience would know.
Well, I said before in the intro that you're an icon in Australian TV, and when you talk about, like, you know, Blue Heelers, Water Rats and Sea Patrol, they're all iconic shows in Australia that you've created and sold around the world. You've given so many jobs to Australians, crew and actors. What goes into creating a TV series? Like, if you go back to like Blue Heelers, your role, how does it start and then build into what it became?
Okay, well, it began, we pitched the idea to Channel 7 of a show called Boys in Blue. Take a step back. I had a guy working for me at that time whose son I'd known from age 6. He turned 18, didn't know what to do, and his dad came in and said, you know what, he's joined the police force. And I'm like, oh my God, policeman? Because I remember the little kid, you know. So he joined the coppers. And anyway, 6 months later, his father told me, or connected an event. 6 months later, a young copper had gone to work on a a shift on a Sunday, and a prison escapee had shot him dead. A young cop. It was one of the first cops to be killed on duty in quite some time in Sydney. This is back in 92, something like that. And it turns out that this young boy that I watched grow up, who'd become a policeman, the policeman who'd been killed had been his best friend, and they had gone to police academy together, had emerged together, and had gone to the same police station together. He had not gone in for work that day. His friend had, and shot dead.
Wow.
And it really rocked me. I thought, my God, 18 years old this kid was, and he's shot dead. And I thought, that's amazing. These kids are emerging from police academy. So I thought, I want to do a show about young cops. So I thought of the title, Boys in Blue, and I always start with the title. If I can't find a title really quickly, I won't make the show. And the title has to be either evocative or informative or both. Return to Eden is evocative. The Last Frontier is evocative. Year of Living Daisy is evocative. Picnic at Hang Rock is evocative. So anyway, I pitched the idea of this show, Boys in Blue. Network put it in development. I got a bunch of writers sit around the table. We started working it up, and it was kind of set in Newtown or something, like inner city in Sydney. And we had an ex-policeman come in and talk about what it was like being a copper. And he told us some stories, and I thought, my God, this guy's like, he'd gone the first academy he'd gone to Yass in the country. And he said he loved it in the country. And I said, why? And he said, oh, well, you kind of knew everybody in town. You know, you knew who the bad guys were, the bad families. There's always bad families, sadly. And so you could say, give them a clip behind the ear and say, watch the police car, instead of, charging them. Right. Just to, kids particularly. Try and keep them on the straight and narrow. And I said, what do they call cops out that way? And he said, he called them blue heelers. And he said, they call the traffic police tyre buyers. Oh, blue heelers? Cops in the country, that sounds great. Yeah. So I said to this room full of now famous writers, they'll remember the scene, I imagine. I said, guys, this is the show, Blue Heelers, about young cops in the country. And they said, oh, no, we want this inner city thing, just, coffee and cigarettes and, that's the real stuff, warts and all. And I went, oh, no, they're wrong. So I said to the guy, okay, you write the show you want to write. I'll see what that looks like. And I rang up a friend of mine, Tony Morford, who's since died. And I said, who lived in the country, Blue Mountains. And I said, Tony, I've got an idea for a show, Blue Heelers, about young cops in the country. And he said, oh, that's a good idea. A friend of mine's the sergeant up here. I'll talk to him about it. So 10 days later, we produced the document, only 10 pages long. And the other thing turned up, and I took them both into the network, and I said, well, look, here's the thing you paid for, Boys in Blue. Frankly, I don't like it. And here's the one we paid for, called Blue Heelers. That's the one I want to make. No, you're right. So that's how we made it. Wow. We shot 2 pilots back to back. Episode, the pilot A was, there were 2 different storytelling styles. One, in the first episode, we met the Lisa McGoon character as she arrived in town and her first days and weeks of work. The second one was some weeks later, in which there was a bank robbery, and the camera spent some time with the bank robbers in a hold-up in a hotel or something. And when we saw it, we thought, oh, big mistake. And we adopted the rule that they adopted on that English police show, the name which I've forgotten. The camera's not in the room unless there's a copper in there. So in other words, we never see both sides of the story, the robber's point of view and the cop's point of view. We only see the cop's point of view. And it was a rule we stuck with for 12 years. And it made the show about the coppers, and so it was very necessary for us to present all parts of the coppers' lives, their social life, example in the pub, etc., with wives and girlfriends, etc., as well as their professional lives, and understand the stress that they go through, because that's where the show had begun. And we managed to luck out by getting a really incredible cast. That first cast we had on the very first series and first 2 pilots was the original cast. Lisa McCune, William McGinnis, Grant Bowler, John Woods, you name them, Marty Sachs. I mean, unbelievable actors, great people. They all remain to this day great friends with me and each other. They're just a really great bunch of people. And we shot an episode in 5 days, and that never changed. For the life of the show, we shot an episode in 5 days.
Wow. And
the rule was this. We rehearsed for 1 day. We shot on location for 2 days. We did 2 days in the studio. Now, that's gone really fast, actually, for anybody that's been in the business. That's effectively shooting a show in 4 days. Wow. Now, we did it, and we did it every week for 42 weeks a year for 12 years.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and, of course, as you mentioned, cast and crew put their kids through high school or school. You know, they bought the house, they bought the holiday house, they bought the caravan, they did what they needed to do because they had a job for all that time. And most of the crew stayed with the duration. The cast changed, but Johnny Wood stayed the duration. Lisa was there for a hell of a long time. And a whole bunch of actors who joined the show had a really great grounding in good drama and rehearsing fast, shooting fast, moving on to the next show. And that's a great lesson. And all of those kids, the home and away neighbours kids that finish up in Hollywood, all say that those early days in those high volume soaps where they make 5 half hours a week, now that's a lot of television. They all acknowledge that that's really made a huge difference to their training and their attitude to work. I'm very proud of what we accomplished.
It was Paul Hogan who put Australian films on the map with one of the biggest movies of all time. Yet more people around the world have seen Blue Heelers and Water Rats than have ever seen Crocodile Dundee. So, no offence, Hogs, the fact is there's a real hunger for Australian television drama. That's TV, not film. And that's what Hal McElroy is so successfully tapping into right now.
But we had, it's funny, right at the beginning, we had no money. I think the first budget was like $140,000 an episode, something ridiculous. And when you're shooting a show like that, you usually have a thing called weather cover. In other words, sets that you build that you can shoot in when it's raining, like weather turns against you. Well, the producer at the time, Bob Rooney, who's his style, great guy, said, our wet weather cover is a raincoat. So we kept on shooting regardless. It didn't matter. Yeah. If it started raining, someone would say, oh, gee, it started raining, we keep shooting. We couldn't afford night shooting. We couldn't even afford to shoot a pistol. Oh, no, we could. But that took an extra 20 minutes because you had to have the safety guys, etc. Right. So, but we learned our stuff, and every single episode, I think we could say, is better than the one before. We made 580 or something. So by the end of it, it was a hell of a show. It was a good show from the beginning. I think it had heart, it had sincerity, it had authenticity, which is a word that we didn't even use back when we first created it. But it proved to be resilient. And I often describe the whole process of producing a show like that is come up with a concept that's bulletproof, like a stainless steel football, because it's going to be kicked around by hundreds and hundreds of people, and it's got to be really resilient to stand there. Actors are going to question the lines, directors are going to want to change the stories, networks are going to want to do whatever they want to do, audience is going to say, I hate her, I love him, blah, blah, blah. You've got to have a really strong concept, and if you get it right, to mix metaphors, and you construct a set of railway lines, you can get that, let's stick with it, stainless steel football on a train track, and it just keeps on running if you get it balanced right. And it can withstand the vicissitudes of budgets and schedules and opposition, competition in ratings, etc., and publicity, and the occasional bad episode or not very satisfying episode. And as you said, people were brought up in it. A whole generation of people would watch the show every Tuesday night. And it kind of reminded them we had a real Australia out there, and it's worthy of remembering and supporting,
Morning, McKinley. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. I saw Adam the other day. How's he? Well, actually...
Blue Heelers is where the gospel, according to Hal McElroy, shines brightest. This is the most successful Aussie TV drama of all time.
Got a better idea, junior detective, or should I say constable?
An unstoppable ratings monster at home, Blue Heelers has also rounded up $50 million in export earnings. And if you want the perfect pair to police this McElroy morality, then who would you summons except John Wood and Lisa McHugh?
I was just going to finish these for Nick.
Yeah, well, I mean, iconic TV shows that you've been a part of. If you look back, what's probably the show that brings you the most joy?
Oh, look, it's asking me about a favourite child. I don't have a favourite child. I'm proud of... I'm very proud of Blue Heelers. I'm very proud of Water Rats. I'm extra proud of Sea Patrol. I'm very proud of Some of Us, Picnic at Hanging Rock, The Last Wave, Return to Eden, Last Frontier. And I'm proud of the films. The one perhaps I could say it's easiest to identify, the one I'm least proud of, but it's only like 90% instead of 110%. Razorback I'm a little bit disconcerted about because it was very violent, and Roadshow, in fact, asked us for video to cut an even more violent version to go out for video, which we made. But looking at it, it's a flawed movie, and the violence is disconcerting to me. I'm not one for violence, and it's the most violent thing I've made. And after I'd made it, I thought, I'm not going to do that stuff anymore. But I think perhaps the most enjoyable were the ones I started making with Di, who... we came together as producing partners in 97, 2000, and we made Going Home, which a lot of people have never heard of, but it's one of those shows, for those who've forgotten or don't remember, it was a 5-day-a-week, half-hour soap opera set on a train, and it was written, shot, edited and broadcast on the same day. Now, this is in 99 and 2000, 20 years ago.
Way ahead of your time.
Mate,
if you had the internet back then, Hal, with social sharing, you had the biggest monster in the world.
Totally. I mean, I look back and I think, what were we thinking, in terms of doing it? But we did it. And in fact, we licensed it in Italy. We licensed it in Canada, in France. And there's nearly 1,000 episodes that have been made based on that format. So... that's a really unlikely hero on our CV. It saved our lives financially. It was a tremendous achievement technically and creatively, unprecedented. No one's really done that since. It was a remarkable thing, and I know you're a big and early fan of it and tried hard to rethink it and reformat it, and I love you for it. We couldn't manage to do it somehow, but you tried, and you felt something about that show that a lot of people, to this day, They tend to call it the train show, but we're very, very proud of it, and it was a great accomplishment and a great thing to do. But more recently, Sea Patrol, no one has ever attempted to shoot a primetime drama action series at sea for all of the episodes, and we shot 68 episodes at sea, and we didn't kill anybody, we didn't injure anybody severely, we got away with it, and we had a wonderful relationship with the Navy, and the recruitment was, as a result of it, was incredible. It was a wonderful experience for everybody involved, and many of the crew say it was their most favourite production to ever work on. That's the thing that makes me proud, frankly. The effect it had on people's lives. When someone says that's the best show I've ever done, and then makeup or wardrobe or cameraman or something like that, well, you go, well, that's good, because we worked very hard to try and not only make a good show, but have good times making it. I was going to say have a lot of laughs. We do have laughs, but a lot of it's a hard grind.
Yeah.
But on Sea Patrol, we were shooting 6 months a year, and the crew would come join us for 6 months, but at the end of 6 months, they'd go and do something else. And we held 93% of the crew for 5 years. Wow. That meant that people would come back every year to stand on a hot metal boat in the tropics, in big seas, driving rain, and shoot action sequences, crazy, dangerous stuff, and have the time of their lives. It was a fabulous thing to see, you know. And when you've got a crew of 100 people and a bunch of actors, and they're all focused and they're all enjoying themselves, you could power a whole village with the electricity amongst that crew. It's a wonderful experience to be part of, and that's really what we remember most of all, that sort of thing.
When you look back on the journey you've been on, what advice would you have either for yourself? Like, would you do anything? Have you learnt lessons that you could possibly share? Because I'm sure people watch this and they're like, man, I want to make a TV show one day and I want to listen to that guy, what he has to say.
Okay, look, the most important thing is resilience, stamina. You've got to keep going. Even bad stuff comes to an end. And there will be bad stuff. There might be good stuff. But don't be entitled. Don't go in saying, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to have a hit. You're going to work hard and you're going to have a failure. In fact, you're most likely to have a failure. In fact, you'd better have a failure pretty soon, because otherwise you'll be really annoying to be around. So you've got to get used to failure, dealing with it with dignity. You've got to learn how to learn from mistakes. You make a bunch of mistakes. When it's a failure, what did you do wrong? It's easy to blame people. The press didn't do this, theatres, I didn't get the right break, there's competition, blah, blah. Yeah, but what did you do wrong? Why isn't it a hit? Try and figure that out. So resilience is tremendously important. Staying open, being present in the moment, listening, watching. We're making popular entertainment that if I thought of an idea tomorrow, the earliest it would be on air would be the middle of next year. Earliest, right? So you're looking ahead of the curve, over the horizon. So how do you do that? You listen to music. You read the newspaper. You watch good television. You watch good film. You keep up to date on everything. I read 3 newspapers a day, 4 websites. I know a lot about American politics. I know a lot about Australian politics. I know a lot about English politics. I know about the world economic situation. I know about the business world. I know a little bit about the art world. I read a lot. So I'm constantly trying to be up to date. I try and be up to date. I try to be really learning. So when people have hits, for example, we've seen most of the big, superhero movies. I pay no attention to the plot. I can barely understand, usually. What I want to see is the state-of-the-art visuals, what they can do, and what you learn. We saw Aquaman. Oh, my God. Is it a great story? No. That guy was great. The visualizations were just incredible. So a guy from Melbourne, a kid from Melbourne, mixed race, Asian, Australian, brilliant, James Wan, brilliant kid, makes a horror movie, Saw, goes to Hollywood, now making the biggest blockbuster of the year. Now, he was present, he was smart, he was watching, he was a student of the whole business. Don't imagine, for example, that you succeed in film and television and not watch television and film. A producer come to me and say, I think you're making this a TV movie. And I said, well, do you watch TV? Oh, no, I don't watch TV. I don't like TV. I watch movies. Well, don't try and make a TV show if you don't like TV. Get out.
Yeah.
So understand the medium, understand people, listen to people. One of the great things that film and television can do is introduce you to people right across the spectrum. So I've spent time with prime ministers and gangsters and murderers and pedophiles, it's now seems. You know, I haven't met an actual murderer, as far as I can tell, but I probably have. But I've also met wonderful, you know, scholars and priests and wonderful actors and bad actors and great actors that are horrible people. You know, I've dealt with psychopaths, I've dealt with sociopaths, I've dealt with narcissists, I've dealt with people with anger management issues, I've dealt with saints, and love the whole process. So you like people, you got to remember that you're serving an audience. You got to respect them. It's not like, I'm not going to show you that because I don't want to. You got to show them what they want in terms of your storytelling. Doesn't mean everything, but you got to be as one with the audience. So you got to sit in the theatre and watch the movie and understand why they laugh and why they don't laugh. Just when you thought you had a big joke, why didn't they laugh at that joke? Tiny. I don't know. What is it? So we made a film called For Some of Us, and one of the most beautiful things about that film was it wasn't a big hit. Russell Crowe, Jack Thompson. It was about gays in '93, quite a while ago now when you think about it. After it opened, I got a note from this kid saying, I went to see The Some of Us with my father, and after the movie, we both watched the movie and we laughed and we cried. And after the movie, I came out to my father and it's changed my life. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
So, that's worth everything.
Awesome, man. Well, what's going on now? We're Skyping and you're up north, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're at Mission Beach where we shot Sea Patrol. Wonderful sunny Mission Beach, although it is now drowning in rain, along with the East Coast. We're pretty much semi-retired. We do a bit of consulting, work with the locals on, you know, economic development, etc., and some occasional film and television projects. We're not spending a lot of time on it because we're trying to stop. It literally took me a couple of years to catch my breath and give myself permission to stop, because one of the things about film and television is you're on 24/7. You get on a Sunday morning, you've got to know what the ratings were, ideally for last night, and you've got to know what the movies were this week, and you've got to read those papers and see what people are thinking and saying. So I loved all that, but it's kind of overwhelming. So to get off the bike and say, it's okay, Hal, you can stop, you can read, you can kick back, you can enjoy yourself. As I said, I had to give myself permission. It took me a couple of years to kind of slow down.
Yeah.
So we're slowed down, although we just went to Japan, Hong Kong and Bangkok for 3 weeks, and before that a month in America. So when I say slow down, I'm talking about the competitive side of the business. I've decided to kind of just step away from.
Yeah.
But I'm still interested in it, less interested than I used to be. I still read the ratings. I still note what shows are getting. I know how hard it is, what a different business it is now. And in a sense, I'm kind of glad I'm not there anymore, because in my day, there was like 4 or 5 networks. Today, there's like 100.
Yeah.
And in my day, there was half a dozen producers who could get to make a primetime show on Australian television. Today, there's 50 or 100. And the market hasn't exactly exploded, you know. Yeah. There's just more people fighting over, you know, so a good rating for an Australian show is 300,000 or 400,000 people. In my day, it was 1 million too.
Wow.
Whatever happened, you know, it's kind of different and very tough, very hard to survive. But the younger guys and girls, and there's a lot more women involved, which is fabulous, on both sides of the camera. I mean, by that I mean, you know, director, producers, writers, women's material. That's all very positive. I think we're fortunate in Australia. We haven't really had much of the Me Too movement. There hasn't really been too much sexual harassment and that sort of stuff. In my experience in the industry, others may disagree, but it's not my experience. And there's not been much dishonesty. It's actually been a pretty good industry in that regard. There hasn't been much fraud or bankruptcy, etc. So we're very lucky. We're blessed by having a government that still continues to support us. There's fights to be had in regard to, protecting the ABC and SBS, etc. But boy, I think the future's pretty bright. And of course, by the way, in my day, to imagine that you could put someone out of a home and away in a movie and they would get a career, like, forget it, You couldn't even put an Australian in the lead, let alone someone from a soap opera. That's changed profoundly. America, for example, which is the centre of the industry, has woken up to Australia. And so you can have, I'd say there's 40 or 50 Australian directors working in Hollywood as we speak, working on the top shows. Perhaps not as many writers, but certainly a lot. And writers, Australian writers, getting Academy Awards, for God's sake. So a lot has happened, and I'm proud that we were part of that, initial brigade that, banged on doors and shouted and screamed and created opportunities for ourselves and others. So it's been a wonderful journey and something I'm proud of. But it's very rare for me to talk about it. You're the first person I've spoken at length about. And I really want to spend, I'm in a little country town. They don't give a damn about Hal McElroy, who he may or may not have been. They don't know me from a hole in the wall, and that's good. It's very easy particularly if I'm in Sydney. It'd be harder for me to stop if I was in Sydney. But it's good to just get the hell out of there and make room, and people can just go do what they want to do and not have to measure themselves against anybody,
Yeah, well, look,
Hal, not me.
It's so good to have you on here, man. It's good to catch up, and I guess I just want to say thank you, because the work and stuff that you've done over the years is incredible. The amount of people you've given careers to, and you and Di should be really proud. Thank you for being on the show.
Mate, I love you. You're a great guy. You're great passion, great enthusiasm. Always wanted to support you. I'm delighted to be part of it. It's a great show, great concept. You're doing a hell of a job, and I wish you the best, mate. Good luck.
Thanks, Hal.
I'll be with you.
Yes, there you go. Super fun to have him on the show. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on the platform.